Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Sciences, SOS, Master of Science, Zoology, MSc ZOO. Semester 2, MZOE 002 Animal Behavior and Animal Welfare Ethics. Block 1 Introduction to Animal Behavior, Concept and Evolution. Unit 5 Homeostasis and Behavior. 5.1 Introduction. In the previous unit we discussed learning and cognitive behaviors. These make the animal aware of its environment and therefore have adaptive value. This unit will introduce the concept of homeostasis and the role that an animal's behavior can play in maintaining homeostasis. Once we understand the basic principles of behavioral homeostasis, we will then learn about motivation, along with understanding the physiological basis underlying both these phenomena. Thereafter, we will look at some interesting examples of behavioral homeostasis. Next, we will discuss the conditions in which an animal can face a motivational conflict and how it chooses between the different alternatives available to it. We will then look at the factors which are at play during this decision-making process. Interestingly, it has been observed that sometimes, in response to a conflict, the animal may show very unexpected and even useless behavior, a phenomenon known as displacement activity. Finally, the unit will deal with the hormonal regulation of behaviors in vertebrates as well as invertebrates. In the next unit, which belongs to Block 2 of the course, we will learn about social behaviors and altruism. Objectives. After studying this unit, you would be able to define homeostasis, describe how the behavior of an organism can help it maintain homeostasis, explain the physiological basis of behavioral homeostasis, enumerate some important examples of behavioral homeostasis, define motivation and understand its physiological aspects, appreciate the situations which lead to motivational conflict, elaborate on the process and machinery involved in decision making, comprehend the concept of time budget, enumerate the various types of conflict behaviors, and appreciate the role played by the endocrine system in regulating the behaviors of vertebrates and invertebrates. 5.2 Homeostasis. One of life's distinguishing features is its ability to maintain an internal system, which is fairly constant with respect to the outside environment. In this context, the phenomenon of homeostasis becomes very relevant. The term homeostasis, coined by Walter Cannon in 1930, has its origin in the ancient Greek language wherein homoios means similar and stasis means standing still. Therefore, not surprisingly, the term homeostasis is used to collectively describe all the physiological processes that help a living organism maintain a constant internal environment relative to the ever-changing external environment. For example, the ability of an organism to maintain its body temperature, blood glucose levels, pH, osmolarity, O2 levels, CO2 levels, etc., are all due to its homeostatic machinery. Homeostatic models assume that there is an ideal state for the animal, and if there is a difference in this ideal point, this error or discrepancy provides motivation and stimulates the behavioral or physiological response to reduce the error. This system is therefore self-correcting. Hence, the phenomenon of homeostasis is crucial to the maintenance of the animal's life, and any breakdown in the homeostatic machinery can have very serious consequences for the animal. Homeostasis involves cooperation and coordination between all of the physiological systems. Let us consider an athlete who is training for the Olympics on a hot sunny day. In order to accommodate his body's increased oxygen demand, his homeostatic machinery increases his metabolic and respiratory rate. Now, the increased respiratory rate poses another problem, that of loss of water. Also, the athlete's body temperature increases, and this too leads to loss of water through sweating. So, the athlete runs a risk of being severely dehydrated. Again, his homeostatic machinery comes to the rescue, making the athlete feel thirsty. When the athlete satiates his thirst by drinking water, his body's water volume is restored to its normal level. This is just one example of how homeostasis works. In fact, homeostatic mechanisms don't just include metabolic rate and thirst but also hunger, sleep, pain, fear, etc. 5.3 Behavioral homeostasis and motivation. 5.3.1 Behavioral homeostasis. Now, let us take the athlete's example a little further and consider that our athlete has been training for quite a while. From past experience, he has learned that he needs to keep himself hydrated and therefore, he might start drinking water intermittently during his training session even though he may not be thirsty. Similarly, rats and pigeons have also been shown to increase their water intake in response to increased temperature of their surroundings even before their internal fluid balance shows any significant reduction. This implies that the animals have learned from past experience to associate increased temperature with dehydration. Therefore, homeostasis can involve a behavioral component which is capable of handling the present crisis and also anticipating the future needs of the animal. This is an example of behavioral homeostasis, which involves maintaining a constant and appropriate internal environment through behavioral means. Behavioral homeostasis could include simple as well as complex physiological processes. An example of a simple process is behavioral thermoregulation, wherein the animal basks in the sun when it feels cold and moves into shade when it feels hot, while the example of a complex physiological process would be the non-stop, long-range migration of some bird species between the wintering and breeding sites. 5.3.2 Motivational system. A very obvious fact about animal behavior is that it shows a lot of variation. Animal behavior varies with respect to environment, time and of course, gender. It also varies on an individual-to-individual basis. So, the next logical question that many ethologists asked was, what is it that actually determines which behavior an animal would display under different circumstances? This led to the introduction of the concept of motivation, which is the sum of all the internal and external causes that make an organism behave a certain way. Motivation is thus a desire or willingness to exhibit a particular behavior. The causal factors responsible for generating motivation could be intrinsic or extrinsic. Intrinsic, or internal, factors include the genetic makeup and the physiology of the organism, while extrinsic, or external, factors are comprised of the animal's environment. An animal may be positively or negatively motivated towards a behavioral pattern. An example of positive motivation would be the approach behavior of an animal towards its prey, while that of a negative motivation would be the avoidance behavior of the animal with respect to a dangerous situation. Both positive as well as negative motivations can vary in their strength or drive. Such motivational variations are beneficial to the animal since they allow it to deal with its physiological needs and respond to the environmental challenges at the same time. A good example of this is the mating behavior of many animals. For many animal species, mating is seasonal and the animal's availability for mating is usually displayed through physiological and behavioral cues. Its biological clock ensures that the animal is only available for mating during those times of the year that are most optimal for fertilization and offspring production. Therefore, the biological clock is in essence synchronizing the physiology of the animal with its environment so as to optimize its chances of survival and reproduction. It is therefore not surprising that the biological clock of the animal is governed by its genes as well as its internal and external environment. A simple fact that emerges from all of our discussion so far is that motivation acts as an intermediary step between the animal's perception of external or internal stimuli and an appropriate behavioral response to the stimuli. Fig. 5.1. So, an animal in which the water balance is disturbed due to hibernation is motivated to drink water, or is thirsty, and that motivation leads the animal to drink water and replenish its water levels. Motivation is thus an intervening variable between the animal's perception of a particular stimulus, external or internal, and the resultant behavior, homeostatic or non-homeostatic. Here, it is important to note that motivation is not always homeostatic in origin. Look at the screen. Fig. 5.1. Illustration depicting motivation as an intervening variable between the stimulus and behavioral homeostasis using thirst and hunger as examples. For example, an animal's motivation to mate can vary depending on its Hormonal levels, particularly those of sex hormones testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. In this way, it seems similar to the animal's other motivations, for instance its motivation to eat. However, the main difference between the two types of motivations is that while the motivation to eat directly correlates with the maintenance of homeostasis, the same cannot be said of the animal's motivation to mate. An operant response involves learned behavior that can be conditioned to increase or decrease in response to their consequences for the animal. For example, an animal could be conditioned to perform a task like pushing a heavy object, like a pedal, a button, or a door, depending on the animal being studied, or pulling a loop string, in order to obtain a reward like food or access to mates. 5.3.3 Testing the strength of motivation. We have already discussed that an animal's motivation to perform different types of behaviors can vary in strength. Can we then compare an animal's motivations to perform two different behaviors? The answer is yes, and the way we can do this is by analyzing an animal's operant response to both these types of behavior. Using this approach, we can compare an animal's motivation towards two different resources by designing an experimental set up where the animal can be made to pay a price, i.e., perform a particular task, before allowing it access to a resource, for example, food. Similarly, we can use another experimental setup which is similar in all other aspects but with a different resource, for example, a mate. We can then slowly increase the price by increasing the intensity and/or frequency of the task to see how much the animal is willing to pay in order to gain access to each of the resources being studied. The basic idea behind this system of analysis is that the animal would pay a much higher price to obtain a resource towards which its motivation is higher. Thus, using this deceptively simple approach, we can compare an animal's motivations to perform two different types of behaviors, like feeding and running away from a predator. The same principle can be applied to compare an animal's motivation towards a variety of other behaviors. 5.4 Physiological basis of behavioral homeostasis and motivation. Recent advances in the field of behavioral homeostasis have indicated that it is largely regulated by neurobiology and endocrinology. In other words, neurotransmitters and hormones are the key regulators of behavioral homeostasis. These regulators exert their effects through the feedback loop mechanism, which allows the assessment of the animal's internal environment. Upon encountering a deviation from the desired condition, the feedback loop can induce necessary changes so that the desired condition, or homeostasis, can be attained. For instance, let us consider the behavioral thermoregulation of a reptile. When its body temperature starts to drop, the feedback loop gets activated and the animal moves into the sun to bask. It uses the sun's energy to increase its body temperature to the desired point. Now, if this reptile were to bask in the sun for too long, then the feedback loop will get activated again. This time, the animal will move away from the sun so that it can reduce its body temperature to reach the desired range. Typically, a feedback loop system for maintaining homeostasis, Fig. 5.2, has at least three main parts. Sensor. A sensor is comprised of receptors which detect the levels of a particular variable of the animal's internal environment. It assesses the internal environment of the animal in a continuous manner. In case of any deviation from the normal, it sends this information to the control center via neurotransmitters, control center. Once the information about the deviation from normalcy reaches the control center, a signal is relayed to the effectors. For most vertebrate systems, the hypothalamus, which is the ventral part of the diencephalon portion of the brain, is the control center. Effectors. The effectors of the feedback loop system upregulate or downregulate their output, depending on whether the deviation from normalcy is below or above the optimal level. The most common effectors include hormones, muscles, and metabolic machinery. In case of behavioral homeostasis, the effectors elicit an appropriate behavioral response from the animal. Thus, as depicted in Fig. 5.2, any deviation from homeostasis is detected by sensors, which relay the information to the control centers, which then relay the information to the effectors. Usually, the signaling between sensors and control center is mediated by neurotransmitters, while the signaling between control center and effectors is mediated by hormones. Fig. 5.2. Sensors, control center and effectors are the three main components of a typical feedback loop system for maintaining homeostasis. Look at the screen. Broadly speaking, there are two types of feedback loops, positive and negative. Positive feedback loops are self-reinforcing, i.e., they lead to the amplification of a particular action. For example, by introducing an incentive for performing a particular task, we can train an animal to repeat the task more efficiently and frequently. However, as important as positive feedback loops are in shaping animal behavior, it is the negative feedback loops that are more important for behavior homeostasis. This is because negative feedback loops lead to a reduction of a particular action or deviation, thereby bringing the system to homeostasis. For example, it is because of a negative feedback loop that an animal whose stomach is full stops further feeding. 5.5 Examples of behavioral homeostasis. The importance of the concept of behavioral homeostasis can be understood by the fact that it can explain the evolution of many types of animal behavior, including drinking, feeding, sleeping, and feeling fear and pain. Let us now consider the other examples individually. A. Drinking. We have already discussed how drinking behavior is regulated in our athlete analogy of the previous sections. Let us now look at the physiology behind this process. The sensors that detect the changes in the osmotic pressure, and therefore the fluid balance, are called osmoreceptors. They are located in the vascular organ of lamina terminalis, vault, region of the hypothalamus. In case of a water deficit, due to sweating for example, the osmolarity of plasma increases, leading to efflux of water outside of the osmoreceptor cells. This leads to shrinking of the cells, which in turn leads to activation of median preoptic nucleus, a part of the hypothalamus that initiates thirst, and also the release of the antidiuretic hormone, UD, which decreases urine production. Some osmoreceptors are located in the kidneys too. These detect changes in osmotic pressure by assessing the rate of sodium ion flow through the kidney's nephrons. Eventually, like the previously described osmoreceptors, these also induce thirst via the involvement of the median preoptic nucleus. The thirst, in turn, motivates drinking behavior. B. Feeding. Hunger is a condition characterized by an intense craving for food along with weakness or discomfort due to the lack of food. 2. Important hormones involved in regulation of hunger are leptin and ghrelin. Ghrelin is secreted by adipocytes. Its levels are monitored by three areas of the hypothalamus: the arcuate nucleus, the lateral hypothalamic area, and the paraventricular nucleus. High leptin levels indicate that the body has sufficient stored energy reserves and, therefore, lead to appetite suppression. However, when the leptin levels are low, the hormone ghrelin is secreted by the stomach. Ghrelin, in turn, stimulates the appetite by acting on the same areas of the hypothalamus as leptin. In most animals, the feeding behavior is also regulated by an insulin signaling pathway, or insulin-like signaling pathway, which regulates circulating blood sugar levels. The hormone insulin is secreted in response to increased blood sugar levels. It promotes storage of glucose within the cells, thereby lowering the increased blood sugar levels, which in turn stimulates further feeding. The insulin signaling pathway regulates feeding behavior via the neurotransmitter called neuropeptide Y, NPY. Contrary to hunger, the term satiety refers to the feeling of fullness after eating. Once the animal is satiated, it needs to stop eating. This is brought about by a negative feedback loop in vertebrates wherein carbohydrates in the diet provide raw materials for the synthesis of neurotransmitters such as serotonin and catecholamine. These neurotransmitters, in turn, suppress the appetite. Consequently, the animal stops eating. On the other hand, insects perform the same effect in a very different manner. They have stretch receptors in their stomach that send negative feedback to suppress appetite once the animal has had a full meal. C. Sleeping. Sleep is a naturally occurring period of inactivity during which the animal's consciousness is altered and its responsiveness to external stimuli is reduced. All vertebrates and even some insects sleep or perform sleep-like behavior. Sleep has been postulated to have adaptive significance. It serves to conserve the animal's energy. This is especially relevant in case of endothermic animals who use their internal body heat in order to thermoregulate, e.g., birds and mammals. Sleep also ensures inactivity of the animal during the part of the day when activity would put it at risk. But perhaps the most important function of sleep is that it provides time for the brain to perform repairs and consolidate memory. Sleep homeostasis is very crucial for humans, as observed by the fact that sleep deprivation has since a long time been described as a powerful torture technique. In humans, prolonged sleep deprivation creates a sleep deficit which results in many disturbances in the person's physical and mental health. It can also lead to weight gain, cardiovascular disease and also loss of concentration, which may result in serious lapses in the person's cognitive abilities. However, as beneficial as sleep is to animals, it also makes them more vulnerable to predation since they are temporarily immobilized during sleep. To counteract this, many animals exhibit behaviors that reduce the risk associated with sleeping. Such behaviors could involve finding a safe shelter to sleep in or sleeping in close contact with other members of the species for increases vigilance against predators. A particularly interesting sleeping behavior is observed in some aquatic mammals that exhibit unihemispheric sleep. Sleep is also closely linked to thermoregulation, with animals selecting a sleeping environment that would lead to minimal thermal loss. Physiologically, sleep is regulated by hormonal and neurochemical mechanisms. The two main hormones involved in sleep homeostasis are melatonin and orexin, also called hypocretin. Melatonin is released by the pineal gland. High levels of melatonin at night induce sleep. Contrary to this, the peptide hormone orexin induces arousal, wakefulness and hunger. Besides the hormones, the neurotransmitter GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, also plays a very crucial role in inducing sleep, and one of the ways it does so is through its involvement in melatonin synthesis. D. Feeling fear. The Oxford Dictionary defines fear as an emotional state evoked by threat of danger. On a physiological level, fear can involve changes such as increased heart rate and sweating. On a behavioral level, fear can induce reactions such as cowering, defensive threats and flight. Fear has adaptive value and serves to induce avoidance of danger, and yet it is a very unpleasant feeling. Thus, fear is a kind of behavioral homeostasis that serves to protect the animal from dangerous situations. Animals use two types of coping strategies against fear: active and passive. Active coping strategies involve fight or flight response accompanied by increased heart rate and increased blood pressure due to the activation of sympathetic nervous system. This involves the action of the hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. Usually, an animal uses active coping strategies when escape from the threat is possible. However, when the threat is inescapable, the animal generally launches passive coping strategies. These lead to immobilization or freezing of the animal owing to inhibition of the autonomic nervous system. The heart rate and blood pressure decrease. From a neuroendocrine perspective, the passive coping strategies involve activation of the hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis and increased glucocorticoid secretion. A. Feeling pain. Like fear, pain is also a form of behavioral homeostasis and an unpleasant sensation that serves to keep the animal away from potential injuries. The receptors that help the animal perceive pain are known as nociceptors. Depending on the kind of stimuli that they respond to, the nociceptors can be thermal, chemical and mechanical. The information about stimulation of nociceptors is transmitted among the nerve fibers via a peptide neurotransmitter, substance P. In this manner, the information is relayed to a specialized area of the brain called the primary somatosensory cortex. There are two classes of pain: I, sharp or immediate pain, and E, Pain due to tissue inflammation. The first type of pain may be caused by an injury inflicted by sharp objects or through bite and sting of other animals. It can directly activate a kind of spinal reflex known as the withdrawal reflex or flexion reflex. In such cases, an involuntary reaction causes a body part to automatically withdraw from the source of the sharp pain. This type of reflex helps minimize and even prevent injury. Being a type of spinal reflex, this action is affected by the spinal cord even before the brain can perceive the signal. On the other hand, pain caused due to tissue inflammation is perceived due to prostaglandins. In this context, cyclooxygenase (COX) enzymes play a very crucial role as they catalyze the synthesis of prostaglandins. 5.6 Motivational conflict and decision making. Earlier in this unit, we have already discussed that during the normal course of life, an animal may need to act upon more than one type of motivation. This creates a situation of motivational conflict which requires decision making on part of the animal. Needless to say, sometimes these decisions could make a difference between its survival and death. So how does the animal make the choice between two different motivations? Well, in order to answer this question, the first thing that we need to do is to get fully acquainted with the concept of motivational conflict. 5.6.1 Motivational conflict. Consider a hypothetical situation in which an animal has a mate and a predator in its field of vision at a particular point of time. On the one hand, the animal is motivated to approach the mate, while on the other hand, it is motivated to flee from the predator. So, the animal has two separate motivations at the same time, and since each motivation is exclusive of the other, the animal is said to be facing a motivational conflict. It must therefore choose to act upon one of the two motivations. Taking this example further, we can even imagine a third motivation in the form of food. Similarly, we can imagine even more motivations. Thus, an animal could have multiple conflicting motivations at the same time. Before we go any further, we need to understand that there is, as yet, no single theory that explains all the aspects of motivational conflict. However, we do have a lot of theories which provide very plausible explanations. The simplest way to explain how animals resolve motivational conflicts is through the use of the motivational energy drive model. According to this model, whenever an animal perceives an external stimulus, causal factor, there is a buildup of an action-specific energy. This built-up energy, called the motivational energy or drive, is released when the animal performs the relevant action or behavior in response to the stimulus. Another postulate of this model is that the motivational energy increases with the passage of time, or with the increase in the intensity of the causal factor. For example, if an animal has been without water for a very long time, its motivational drive to drink would be much greater than if it hadn't been without water for too long. So, with the passage of time, its motivational drive to drink has increased. Given the framework of motivational energy, we can now explain the outcome of motivational conflict and understand how an animal chooses a particular behavior amongst all the options. It seems that the motivations and the behaviors associated with them are ranked by priorities. For example, mating and parental care receive topmost priority, with some animals going without any food for extended periods of time. Interestingly, in many cases, this priority is only valid during specific seasons of the year, and at all other times, feeding behavior receives preference over all other behaviors. Thus, it is clear that this process of prioritization of behaviors is dependent on external stimuli and is therefore flexible to a great extent. As good as the classical motivational energy concept is at answering some of the most basic questions regarding motivational conflict, it suffers from a few drawbacks too. The main problem with the concept is that no direct physiological evidence has ever been found supporting the presence of motivational energy in the central nervous system. Another drawback is that, even though the motivational energy model considers the impact of external stimuli on resolving motivational conflict, it does not take into account the effect of internal stimuli. For example, once the animal's stomach is full after Having a meal, its internal system provides negative feedback to stop the feeding behavior. Therefore, in order to resolve such issues, a new model has been proposed that incorporates the feedback concept into its explanation. The homeostatic aspects of this updated model allow us to even explain shifts in the animal's motivational priorities. The animal first performs the topmost priority behavior, the behavior for which it has the highest motivation. Afterwards, due a negative feedback loop that sends signals to the central nervous system, the animal's motivation to perform that particular behavior gets reduced. So, once an animal has performed the topmost priority behavior, it switches over to the behavior for which it has the next highest motivation, second priority behavior, and so on and so forth. Let us analyze this shift in motivational priorities with the help of an example. Imagine an animal that is very hungry but only moderately thirsty. Here, a direct comparison between the two different motivations would indicate that the motivation level for feeding is more than that for drinking. Therefore, the animal would start feeding and will continue until it approaches satiation. Meanwhile, owing to the negative feedback mechanism, its motivation for feeding will continue to decline, and once it reaches below the animal's motivation to drink, there will be a shift in the behavior and the animal will start drinking. Now, the next question is, how is it ensured that only the topmost priority behavior is shown first? Recent studies suggest that the topmost priority motivational system inhibits the expression of the lower priority motivational systems. Thereafter, the switch in behavior happens due to a reduction of the motivation for the topmost priority behavior, which causes the disinhibition of the next highest motivation, and so on. The switch could also occur if there is an increase in motivation, causal factors, for the second priority behavior. 5.6.2 Decision Making. The concept of motivational competition provides an intellectual framework on how an animal could choose between two different behavioral responses. This choice is based on a complex decision-making process, which is regulated by the animal's motivations and individual preferences. A very convenient tool to compare the motivations and preferences of two different animals is by performing a comparative analysis of their time budgets. The time budget is a record of all the activities or behaviors performed and the proportion of time spent by an animal in performing those activities during the course of the day. The time budget also allows us to account for variations with respect to their genders and the seasons of the year. An individual's preferences are also very important regulators of their motivations. Preferences, in turn, are determined by the animal's genetics, physiology, and environment. For example, an animal living in a resource-poor environment is likely to spend a greater amount of its time searching for food compared to an animal living in a resource-rich environment. Interestingly, if an animal spends more time in a particular behavior, say feeding, then it is going to have to make behavioral trade-offs. This means that the animal would have less time for other activities or behaviors, and that would involve reprioritizing the other behaviors. Sometimes, it may have to skip a particular behavior due to paucity of time. Again, the animal would have to rely on its decision-making processes, which we must note are also under constant selection pressure. So, only those decision-making strategies that provide an adaptive advantage to the animal will persist in the subsequent generations. Now that we know about the process, let us look at the actual machinery involved in decision-making. Vertebrate systems are quite similar in their approach to decision-making, perhaps because the basic machinery for the same evolved early in the vertebrate line. Of course, millions of years of evolution has produced a lot of change with respect to the size of the various structures. Nonetheless, the basic machinery is quite similar. However, among the invertebrates, there is a lot of variation in the decision-making machinery. At present, much of the information regarding the decision-making machinery of invertebrates is from the insects, wherein the brain has multiple sensory processing ganglia. These, in turn, provide input to the main decision-making centers called the mushroom bodies. The most important areas of the vertebrate brain with respect to the decision-making processes are the prefrontal areas of the frontal lobe and the posterior part of the parietal lobe, Fig. 5.3. The latter is the final decision zone of the brain, and once activated, it leads to performance of an action. Even in the lobes of the brain, there is a division of labor between the left and the right hemisphere. Thus, when the animal is faced with situations in which the costs associated with all the behaviors and the levels of all the conflicting motivations are certain, then the relevant lobes of the left hemisphere are involved in the decision-making process. On the other hand, when the animal finds itself in a situation where all the alternatives are equally likely or the cost of the conflicting behaviors are uncertain, then the relevant lobes of the right hemisphere are involved in the decision-making process. Fig. 5.3. Lateral view of the brain showing the various lobes. Look at the screen. Grooming refers to any behavior that involves cleaning off the animal's body, e.g., removing parasites or dirt from the skin, fur or feathers. Self-directed behavior, SDB, includes any behavior directed towards the animal's own self, e.g., scratching, touching, grooming, etc. SDBs are of great interest to ethologists as these could indicate self-awareness in non-human species, which could be indicative of a cognitive function that may be much higher than imagined so far. 5.7 Conflict behavior. In the previous section, we discussed how an animal resolves motivational conflict and the factors that are involved in this decision-making process. However, when an animal experiences two mutually exclusive motivations of almost equal strengths, or if it is unable to act on its motivation to exhibit a certain type of behavior, it might exhibit a behavior which is insufficient or inconsistent with the motivations. Such a behavior is known as conflict behavior. Four main types of conflict behaviors, Fig. 5.4, have been reported. Look at the screen. Fig. 5.4, the four types of conflict behavior. 5.7.1 Displacement activity. Displacement activity is defined as an inappropriate behavior shown in response to a motivational conflict. In other words, displacement activity is that behavior performed by the animal which involves release of drive energy in an inappropriate manner when the animal cannot exhibit the desired behavior. Thus, it can be seen as an act of spending the pent-up drive energy by displacing it onto an irrelevant or inappropriate behavior. The most common displacement activity is grooming. For example, imagine a female bird returning to her clutch of eggs in her nest. At this point, her motivation to incubate is quite high. Now consider a scenario in which she spots a predator moving towards her. Now her motivation to flee from the predator contradicts her motivation to incubate her eggs. In such a scenario, the bird may end up preening herself instead of performing any behavior relevant to either of her motivations. It has been hypothesized that such self-directed behaviors, SDBs, are caused by the anxiety due to motivational conflict. Even though most displacement behaviors may seem to be so, they may not be entirely irrelevant, as seen in these two instances. In some bird species such as buntings, during sexual chases, a part of the mating ritual, the male buntings show cooling behavior. However, this seemingly irrelevant displacement behavior could be an autonomic response stimulated by fear or exertion, and therefore could have adaptive value. Sometimes, the displacement activity may be irrelevant but low priority activity that usually follows after performing the behavior, or activity arising out of one of the conflicting motivations. Usually, such low priority activities are under inhibitory control and are only disinhibit once the high priority activity has been performed. But during a motivational conflict, the high priority activity is blocked and thus the low priority activity could be disinhibit earlier than expected. 5.7.2 Redirected behavior. An animal is said to exhibit redirected behavior when it performs an appropriate activity, but it is directed towards an inappropriate object or individual. Redirected behaviors are quite commonly observed in those instances when an animal feels aggression but is conflicted because it cannot attack the true target of its aggression. For example, when a male herring gull is confronted by an aggressive neighbor at the boundary of its territory, it may redirect its retaliatory aggression towards the grass and start tearing at it. Thus, instead of retaliating against the actual stimulus, which is the aggressive neighbor, the herring gull's aggression gets redirected towards an inappropriate object, i.e., grass. As an analogy, consider a situation in which you are watching an exciting match on TV and a player makes a huge error costing your favorite team the match. In such a situation, you may redirect your aggression by kicking the wall, punching some cushions, screaming at your TV, or in extreme cases, even breaking the TV screen. 5.7.3 Intention movements. Intention movements are shown when the animal facing the motivational conflict shows a behavior appropriate to one of the motivations, but the behavior is incomplete or reduced in intensity or frequency. This happens when one of the two conflicting motivations cause incomplete inhibition of the other. For example, just before they fly off, birds like gannets, Fig. 5.5, and gulls lift their wings. When faced with conflicted motivations between flying away from the predator and staying to guard their eggs, they lift their wings but do not actually fly away. Thus, these birds show an appropriate but incomplete activity when faced with a motivational conflict. 5.7.4 Ambivalence. An animal is said to be showing ambivalence when it exhibits intentional movements appropriate to both the conflicting motivations. Thus, the animal does not show complete activity for any single motivation and instead shows a behavioral pattern that combines the elements of both the conflicting motivations. For example, an animal may catch sight of a food item but also sense that there may be danger involved in procuring it. The animal will then be faced with an approach avoidance conflict wherein it will try to slowly move towards the food and then it may nervously retreat several times before procuring the food item. This repeated approach retreat behavior is thus an example of ambivalence. The study of conflict behavior has a great significance for animal welfare. If animals are kept in prolonged captivity that restricts their normal behavior, or if they are mistreated by their owners, then the animals may experience psychological stress. These issues, if left unaddressed, may even lead to development of pathology in the animal. For example, it may show displacement and redirected behaviors, such as repetitive pacing and grooming, at such high frequencies that it may lead to physical damage to the animal. Under extreme circumstances, the distress can lead to the animal's death also. Therefore, enclosures for the animals must be designed keeping in mind their psychological needs so that the animals can be as comfortable as possible. If every other method of trying to rehabilitate the animal fails and the animal continues to be in distress, then certain medications can be prescribed to it to help treat its depression and/or anxiety.